Welcome back to The Making of Her. I am your host, Dr. Meghna Dasani. In the last 2 episodes, we talked about why women in healthcare are always on and that emotional labor tax that quietly drains you. Today, we're talking about the world that sits in the center of both, one of guilt. Because for many women doctors, guilt isn't occasional, it's ambient. It shows up when you leave work on time, when you don't respond to a message immediately, when you say no to a patient request, a staff issue, or a family need. And the problem isn't that you don't know how to say no. The problem is that saying no feels like you're violating something essential about who you're supposed to be. So today we're going to talk about where that guilt comes from and why it shows up so strongly in women doctors and how to lead without self-betrayal. So why does no feel so ethically wrong to us, right? Let's start with this. For doctors, saying no doesn't just feel inconvenient. It feels unethical because you've been trained to prioritize patient welfare, to minimize harm, and to take responsibility seriously. So when a patient asks for more time, or a staff member needs support, or a family member wants access to you, your nervous system doesn't hear a request. It hears a duty. And duty is hard to refuse without guilt. But here's the truth. Not every request is a medical or a moral obligation. Some are emotional expectations that have quietly attached themselves to your role. And when you don't separate the two, everything becomes heavy. We bear the identity of a caregiver in medicine. Medicine doesn't just train your skills, right? It shapes your identity. It defines who you are. And many women doctors internalize, I'm the one who helps, or I'm the one people rely on, or I don't get to drop the ball. And that identity is reinforced constantly because patients thank you. Your staff lean on you. Family members expect flexibility. So when you say no, it feels like you are rejecting who you are, not just a task. This is why guilt hits so fast. You're not saying no to a request. You are challenging an identity that is built on availability. That is destabilizing. Why do women doctors carry more guilt than men do? Let's talk about that gender piece, right? Because it matters more than we think it does. See, women doctors are often expected to be more accommodating, more emotionally available, more flexible. So when a woman says no, it violates a social script. She's not just firm, she's difficult. Not just having boundaries, she's cold. Not just unavailable, she just don't care. Men in medicine are more often allowed neutrality. Women are expected to provide warmth and excellence. So guilt becomes the cost of that professionalism. And many women pay it automatically without question. Let's define the difference between care and over responsibility, because that distinction is more crucial. It's critical. See, care is intentional and over responsibility is reflexive. Care has limits, over responsibility does not. So when you feel guilty saying no, ask yourself, is this actually mine to carry? Because medicine teaches you to prevent harm, but it does not teach you how to release the responsibility that's not yours. And over time, everything feels urgent. Everything feels personal and everything feels heavy. That's not ethical leadership, by the way. That is unsustainable self-sacrifice. How does guilt live in our body? It's not just a thought. It is actually a somatic response. That's when you feel that tight chest, the knot in the stomach, restlessness, mental looping. Your nervous system is responding to a perceived threat, it goes into fight or flight. If I say no, something bad's going to happen. So even when the boundary is reasonable, your body reacts as if you are endangering connection or even safety. That's why logic alone does not fix guilt. You can intellectually know that you're allowed to say no and still feel awful doing it, because the fear is not cognitive, it's embodied. How can we redefine ethical leadership then? We know this needs to be addressed, right? Here is the reframe I want to offer you. See, ethical leadership is not endless availability. Ethical leadership is sustainability. You cannot provide good care from depletion. You cannot lead well while being resentful. You cannot show up present when you're overextended. Saying no is not abandonment. It is calibration. It is choosing presence over performance. It is choosing clarity over chaos, choosing integrity over guilt. Here's something important. When you hold boundaries, you actually model them. You model them for your staff, you model them for your patients, you model them for your family, your children. That is leadership. Now let's make one thing clear. Guilt is not your compass. It was never supposed to be. If guilt has been guiding your decisions, take this as your invitation to pause. Guilt is not proof that you're doing something wrong. Often, it's proof that you're doing something new. You can care deeply and still say no. You can be a great doctor, nurse, healthcare provider, dentist, and still protect your capacity. You can lead with compassion without the self-betrayal. That's the work. And you and I, we're going to keep building it, one layer at a time. I will see you next time.